Under the soft, dim light inside the wooden cabin, James carefully tended to Dibe, his face etched with worry after the doctor hinted that she might be pregnant. She offered him a faint smile, trying to mask the secret she wasn't ready to face. A quiet fear for an uncertain future crept into her heart. In episode 45, James's tender proposal unfolds as he makes a heartfelt vow to build a home for the two of them. But Deep, haunted by the secret of her pregnancy and fears about fate, begins to pull away. Can their love survive when invisible cracks start to form? At dawn, under the pale morning light, two Deep sat by the small fire in the front yard of the wooden house in Tanmin village. The fire crackled over the dry sticks she had gathered from the garden, its warm red glow flickering across her thin face, highlighting her swollen, tear-stained eyes. Her thoughts weighed heavy, like a boulder pressing down on her chest. Each breath labored under the burden of fear and helplessness. She wore a thin, patched-up shirt, the torn fabric exposing her goose-bumped skin as the early spring chill seeped through every hole. Curling up, arms wrapped around her knees, she tried to draw some warmth from her own fragile body. Tears slid silently down her cheeks, falling onto the dry red earth as she whispered in a broken voice barely audible over the fire's pops and crackles. "I don't understand how I could be pregnant. James and I never even slept together. How is this happening? I don't know how I got pregnant." Her tears soaked into the ashes, leaving little dark stains like proof of a silent pain. Her heart spiraled in confusion, trapped in a storm of questions with no answers. How am I going to face him? What will James think? He's been so good to me. If he finds out, will he still stay? She lowered her head, messy strands of hair hiding her tear-soaked face. Her quiet sobs blended with the cold spring breeze rustling through the garden, carrying the damp scent of last night's rain. The leaves rustled as if echoing her sorrow. She wiped her tears with a ragged sleeve, her trembling fingers brushing her chilled cheeks. In her eyes, a flicker of resolve glinted through the sadness. "I have to keep going. I can't fall apart. I need to work, even if it's just to forget this secret, even if it's just to survive today." She looked up, her gaze fixed on the dying embers. The fading light reflected in her eyes, a flicker of fragile hope surfacing through the storm in her soul. "I need to be strong. For James, for myself. But why does it feel so hard?" She rose slowly, the fire now only a faint glow. Her bare feet, clad in worn rubber sandals, trembled as she stepped into the back garden. The damp red earth chilled her soles, and she shivered slightly. Morning light glistened on the dew still clinging to the mustard greens. Droplets sparkled on the leaves, mirroring the depth of sorrow in her heart. She picked up an old plastic bucket from the corner, its cracked surface flaking in her hands. Pouring water from a moldy wooden barrel, she carefully watered each plant. Her movements were slow, deliberate, an attempt to stretch time and quiet the storm raging within. Her eyes lingered on the leaves, searching for some semblance of peace amidst the chaos. Pregnant, how? What do I do about James? She opened a bag of old fertilizer, wrinkling her nose at the sharp scent. Still, she sprinkled it around the base of each plant. Her dirt-streaked hands trembled slightly as they touched the soil, her mind whispering through the pain. "These vegetables need to grow well so I can sell them. I don't want James to worry about me. He already has so much on his plate with the company, but if he finds out, what will he think of me?" Tears welled up again, but she bit her lip, holding them back. A faint determination returned to her gaze. "I need to live on, even if it's just so he won't suspect anything." She walked past the rickety chicken and duck coop, made of uneven wooden planks that swayed in the wind. The birds chirped eagerly as she tossed leafy greens from an old bamboo basket. The leaves fell onto the ground, and she muttered softly to herself, "Eat up, I have to go work. Gotta sell these bananas to get through the day." Looking up, her gaze met Haki, her small, scruffy brown dog wagging its short tail excitedly at her feet. Its round eyes looked up at her with unshakable trust. She knelt down, fingers brushing through its soft fur, the warmth in its coat bringing a hint of comfort. "You're such a good boy, Haki. Watch the house for me, okay? You're my friend. Only you don't ask me why I'm sad." Haki tilted its head and nuzzled her hand, its wet nose pressing gently against her skin as if saying, "I'm here for you." She smiled faintly, her eyes softening. "Haki doesn't know I'm pregnant. He doesn't judge me. As long as I have him, I'm not completely alone." She stood up, heart a little lighter. "At least I have Haki. I'll keep going, for him, for James." A few kilometers away, James was driving his shiny black Ford Raptor down a bumpy red dirt road toward a meeting with a potential partner. Dry dust billowed behind the truck like a crimson cloud. The engine rumbled low, blending with the spring breeze rustling through roadside bushes. He pulled over by a lush green rice field. Young stalks swayed gently in the wind, the soft morning light streaming through the windshield and casting a glow over his face. There was quiet determination in his eyes as he stepped out, his old leather shoes crunching lightly against the earth. She was sad yesterday. I saw it in her eyes. I have to make her smile. Today I'm meeting a partner to finalize the land. For her, for us, a real home. His grey work jacket was smudged with dirt from days on the farm. As he gazed across the field, he told himself, she deserves something real, a safe place. I have to make it happen. He took a deep breath, the scent of fresh rice lingering in the air, and his heart filled with purpose at the thought of Dieppe. At a small coffee shop by the field, James met Hung, a longtime partner. Dusty sunlight streamed through the grimy windows onto a scratched wooden table, bearing the marks of countless conversations. James pulled out a chair, the warm aroma of roasted coffee drifting from porcelain mugs. He smiled, his sun-kissed face lighting up as he spoke with a deep, calm voice. Good to see you, Hung. Sorry I kept you waiting. Work's been crazy lately. Hung, tall in a crisp white shirt, nodded with a friendly look, replying, I'm good. How are things since that issue with your workers? About that land I asked about, do you still have it? James nodded, eyes glinting with hope. 10 meters wide, 24 deep. After accounting for the 4-meter setback, you get 20. It's a good plot, great feng shui, backed by the hills, 150 million per meter. I held it for you, old friends, after all. Hung smiled in approval. Perfect. I'm buying it to build a house. I'll send a 300 million deposit. You handle the paperwork. I trust you? James nodded, pulled out his phone and began tapping quickly. Done. I'll transfer it now. Everything will be finalized within the month. They walked into the cafe, the smell of fresh coffee mixed with the low hum of other patrons' chatter. James asked, Getting married soon? Why the rush with the land? Hung nodded, his smile genuine. Yeah, settling down. She wants a place near a school. What about you? Heard you're planning a wedding too? James's smile softened with warmth as he thought of Dieppe. She's everything to me, Hung. I want to build a home for her, so she never has to suffer again. Hung clapped his shoulder with a grin. You really love her. I hope you get your happy ending. Back in Tan Minh, Deep was preparing bananas for market. She sat in the corner of the wooden yard, packing sticky green bunches into an old basket. The morning light fell on her worn face as a light drizzle began. Drops tapped against her tattered conical hat, soaking through her thin patched shirt. But she kept working. Her hands, dirty with red earth, tied up the basket tightly before hoisting it onto her slender shoulder. She walked slowly down the slippery dirt path, mud splashing onto her old rubber sandals as she carefully kept her balance. The market bustled with noise, vendors calling out, buyers haggling. She squeezed through the crowd, setting her basket down near Hoa's vegetable stall, and called out in a small voice amid the noise, Bananas for sale, only 5,000 a bunch. The rain made the chaos worse, water dripped from her hat down her cheeks, but she smiled at customers. One woman asked, How much for the bananas? Di answered, Just 5,000, auntie, take some. The woman nodded and Dieppe quickly packed up the sale. The money she earned was damp in her pocket, but she let out a small breath of relief. Done. That was quick today. On her way back, she stopped by a small convenience store, bought some eggs and thought, I'll make some rice when I get home. I'm exhausted, but I have to keep going. Meanwhile, James had wrapped up his deal with Hung and sat inside his truck. He opened his banking app, scanned the QR code and transferred 300 million with the note, land deposit. His fingers moved quickly, a quiet satisfaction warming his chest. It's done. I'll build Deep a real home. She deserves that. He drove along the red dirt roads toward the gold shop in Tan Minh town. Dust swirled behind him as he parked, stepping into the store where golden rings sparkled behind the glass case. The scent of polished wood and metal filled the air. His eyes scanned the display until he chose a delicate ring with a glistening stone. His heart surged with anticipation. She'll love this. It's small, but it's beautiful. I'll propose today. She deserves this happiness. He smiled at the clerk. Can you wrap it? I'm proposing tonight. The joy in his voice was tinted with nervous excitement as he took the small red box. She'll be so surprised. He headed to Deep's house. When he arrived, the cabin was empty. Pale light spilled through the wooden shutters onto the dirt floor. She wasn't there. He called out, Di? No reply. She must have gone to sell bananas. I'll wait. I'm proposing today. He stepped into the garden, the pale light shining over the lush green rows. Picking up the old bamboo basket of vegetables, he scattered greens for the chickens and ducks. Their cheerful chirps filled the air as he stood in front of the coop, took out the ring box and rehearsed his proposal. His deep voice trembled slightly in the wind. Deep, will you marry me? He paused, corrected himself. No, better like this. Deep, will you be my wife? He dropped to one knee, eyes shining as he imagined her smile. What will she say? Just then, Deep returned, her muddy sandals stopping at the gate. Soaked from the rain, her wet shirt clung to her body. Seeing James on one knee with the red ring box in his hand, a wave of panic crashed over her. He's proposing, but I'm not ready. How can I marry him like this? Pregnant? He's so kind. I can't face him. She hid by the side of the house, peeking through a gap in the wooden wall, heart pounding as he repeated, Diep, will you be my wife? Her tears welled up again, pain cutting through her chest. I want to say yes, but how can I? James waited until nightfall. Moonlight bathed his lonely figure sitting by the wooden table. Still no sign of her. He finally stood, eyes filled with quiet disappointment but firm resolve. He whispered, I'll come back tomorrow. She has to say yes. I'm not giving up. He drove off, the sound of his truck fading into the night. Deep stepped inside after he left, sitting by the wooden table under the flickering oil lamp. Her tears fell silently onto the floor, soaking into the red earth like silent sorrow. Her whisper broke through the stillness. What do I do now? He's so good to me, but I can't. How can I marry him when I'm pregnant like this? As James prepares to propose, and Deep hides in fear, will their love survive this new test? In episode 46, the truth behind Deep's pregnancy is revealed, and James must face confusion and shaken trust. Don't miss it to find out what happens next.
Cốt chuyển hướng câu chuyện Dương Hương Tự Do em mắt buồn. Chúng tôi vừa qua đời được 3 tháng, Diệp sững sờ lòng trào lên sự đồng cảm sâu sắc. Tôi xin lỗi, cô thì thầm. Như nỗi đau của Hương đang hòa vào nỗi đau của chính mình. Hương mỉm cười buồn, xua tay, không sao đâu, còn bạn thì sao? Diệp cúi đầu giọng nhỏ dần, tôi đã ly hôn rồi, giờ tôi ở tạm trang trại của một người bạn. Hương gật đầu, ánh mắt sáng lên. Nhưng nghe đến từ bạn, nghe nói người đó là chủ tịch rất giàu đúng không? Câu hỏi, giọng tò mò. Diệp gật đầu, làm chợt nặng trĩu nghĩ đến Giang. Là anh ấy rất tốt, nhưng tôi chỉ là người phụ nữ đã ly hôn, tôi không xứng đáng với anh ấy nên đã từ chối tình cảm của anh ấy. Cô thú nhận, giọng run rẩy như sắp khóc. Hương nhìn Diệp đau lòng nhói trước sự tự ti của bạn mình. Cô ấy xứng đáng được yêu thương hơn bất kỳ ai. Sao cô ấy lại tự giao mình trong nỗi đau như vậy? Hương nghĩ, tay nắm chặt lấy tay Điệp. Rồi tôi đồng cảm với bạn, nói đôi giọng điệu dịu dàng nhưng kiên định. Giang là người tốt, anh ấy giàu có và quan tâm bạn. Tại sao bạn phải từ chối? Chúng ta đi sống một lần, hãy nghe theo trái tim mình. Đừng để lời bàn tán làm ảnh hưởng. Diệp ngẩng lên, đôi mắt long lanh. Trong khi đó, tại một trang trại cách đó không xa, Giang đang bận rộn kiểm tra việc thu hoạch của củ rong cùng Bin, người bạn kinh doanh lâu năm. Anh đứng giữa cánh đồng, dáng người cao lớn, nổi bật với bộ vest giản dị, ánh mắt sắc bén quan sát từng động tác của công nhân. Những chiếc xe chở củ rong lăn qua đường phố đất đỏ, để lại những vết bánh sau hầm. Trong tiếng cười nói của công nhân vang vọng giữa không gian rộng, nhưng trong lòng Nhân là nỗi buồn âm ỉ không nguôi. Kể từ ngày Diệp từ chối tình cảm của anh, cô ấy nghĩ mình không xứng đáng, nhưng với mình cô ấy là tất cả. Anh nghĩ tay vô thức siết chặt chiếc bút trong áo, như thời đó là cách duy nhất để giữ lại chút bình tĩnh giữa cơn sóng gió. Anh dịu Diệp Không phải vì thương hại mà vì sự mạnh mẽ lương thiện trong cô đã làm ảnh hưởng đến trái tim anh. Điều mà anh chưa